Before we start, I want to say that only 1% of you are subscribed. Please subscribe because when we reach 1,000 subscribers, I will post a special video for you. In the silent expanse of space, a small alarm pierced the quiet within the cockpit of Jack Turner's ship, the Nomad. The console before him flickered to life, displaying an urgent distress signal. Jack leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as he parsed the details flashing across the screen. Coordinates logged. Looks like we've got a stranded vessel out there, Jack murmured to himself. His fingers danced across the console, plotting a course. The SS Horizon, a research vessel from the distant and advanced Zaltraxian Collective, floated helplessly in an uncharted sector, its engine lights flickering like the last gasps of a dying star. Inside its command center, Captain Sealer, a tall figure with shimmering violet scales, addressed his crew with a calm urgency. Report, Engineer Milo. Status of the engines? Milo, his scales a dull shade of green reflecting his stress, frantically toggled through his data pads. Captain, the main reactors are offline. We've sustained major damage to our propulsion systems. I can't get them back without external help. The captain turned to his communications officer, a wiry Zaltraxian named Tbel. Keep sending the distress signal. Any ships in range must hear our plea. Back on the Nomad, Jack steered his ship through the asteroid field that lay between him and the horizon. His communicator crackled to life as he approached. This is Jack Turner aboard the Nomad, responding to your distress call. I'm here to offer assistance. Captain Sealer's voice responded, laced with relief but edged with caution. We welcome your assistance, Nomad. We are in critical need of repair. Be advised, we have never interacted with a human before. Jack chuckled softly. Well, there's a first time for everything. Preparing to dock now. As Jack's ship aligned with the Horizon's docking bay, he could see through his viewport the damaged hull of the alien ship. It was worse than he had expected. He docked smoothly, despite the ship's failing systems, and sealed the airlock. Upon entering the Horizon, Jack was greeted by Captain Sealer and his first officer, a burly Zaltraxian named Renek. Sealer extended a hand, his gesture an awkward mimicry of human customs. Thank you for coming to our aid, Mr. Turner, Sealer said, his voice carrying a formal tone. Jack grasped his hand, feeling the odd, cool texture of his skin. Just Jack is fine. Show me where the trouble is, and let's get you back up and running. Milo joined them, leading the way to the engine room. The corridors of the Horizon were sleek, lined with panels of light that pulsed softly. Never seen human tech up close, Milo commented as they walked. Heard stories, though. You folks are supposed to be quite resourceful. Jack grinned. We have our moments. Let's see if your stories hold up. Reaching the engine room, Jack surveyed the damage. Panels were blown open, wires sparked intermittently, and the air was tinged with the acrid scent of burnt metal. All right, let's get started, Jack said, rolling up his sleeves. Milo, you got a toolkit on this ship, or do I need to fetch mine? Milo quickly handed him a set of tools, their shapes slightly unfamiliar but functional. As Jack set to work, Renek observed closely. You handle our tools well for a first-timer, Renek noted. Tools are tools, whether on Earth or in outer space, Jack replied without looking up. Now, let's talk more about these reactor configurations. I have a few ideas. Together, they delved into the heart of the alien technology, Jack leading the repairs with Milo and Renek assisting, each learning from the other. As they worked, a bond began to form, grounded in mutual respect and the universal language of engineering. The chapter laid the foundation for a partnership that would prove crucial in the chapters to come. Jack wiped the sweat from his brow as he finished stabilizing the main reactor. The panel before him buzzed softly, a sign of life from the previously dormant system. Milo, with an impressed look, clapped his scaly hands together. Never thought I'd see it come back this quick. You've got some real skill, Jack. Jack chuckled, handing a tool back to Milo. Just doing what I can. What's next on the repair list? Before Milo could respond, Captain Sealer's voice echoed through the intercom. Engineer Milo, Mr. Turner, please report to the bridge immediately. They exchanged glances and headed to the bridge, following the luminescent lines embedded in the sleek floors of the SS Horizon. As they entered, they found Sealer and First Officer Renek engaged in a heated discussion with T'Pel, the communications officer. "Ah, here they are," said Sealer, motioning them over. "Gentlemen, we have a situation. While you've been repairing the engines, we've detected an anomaly nearby. It's not a threat, but it's worth investigating." Jack raised an eyebrow. "What kind of anomaly?" "Space is full of them." Renek adjusted the display, bringing up a holographic star map. A blinking dot marked the anomaly's location. "It's an energy signature unlike anything we've cataloged before. Could be a natural phenomenon, could be something more." Jack glanced at Milo, his curiosity piqued. "Mind if I take a look? I've got some experience with energy anomalies back in my system." Milo nodded eagerly. "Let's gear up then. A field trip might give us more insight." The preparations were swift. Jack and Milo, accompanied by T'Pel, suited up and embarked on a smaller craft docked within the horizon. Sealer turned to Jack as he was about to leave. "Mr. Turner, keep communications open. We don't know what you might find out there." "Will do, Captain," Jack assured him, before following Milo into the shuttle. The shuttle ride was brief, the anomaly mere kilometers from their current position. As they approached, T'Pel's sensors started chirping with data. "Energy levels are off the charts," T'Pel announced, eyes fixed on the readings. "It's stable but highly potent." Jack peered out of the viewport, his eyes catching the shimmering lights of the anomaly. "Looks like a subspace tear. You see these when the fabric of space-time gets a bit too stretched. Might be natural, might be induced." Milo turned to him, intrigued. "Induced? You think something caused this intentionally?" "Possibly," Jack mused, adjusting the shuttle's instruments to gather more data. "But why and how? That's the million-credit question." The shuttle orbited the anomaly, gathering as much data as possible. Jack and T'Pel discussed various theories, from experimental alien tech gone awry to a natural subspace phenomenon. "Whatever it is, it's beautiful," T'Pel said, not taking his eyes off the swirling colors outside. Jack nodded in agreement. "Yeah, and potentially useful. Imagine harnessing energy like this." Milo listened, his mind racing with possibilities. "If we could study this further, who knows what we might learn." The trio spent hours collecting data and samples where possible, their minds alight with the potential scientific breakthroughs before them. As they made their way back to the horizon, a sense of accomplishment filled the small shuttle. Back on the bridge, Sealer greeted them with anticipation. "What have you found?" Jack grinned, handing over the collected data. "Not sure yet, but it's going to be big. Could change how we understand these parts of space." Sealer nodded solemnly, impressed and thoughtful. "Then let's explore this together. Mr. Turner, your assistance has been invaluable." "As has your hospitality, Captain," Jack replied, the alien crew and the human now firmly on the path of mutual discovery and newfound comradeship. Inside the cramped confines of the SS Horizon's engine room, Jack and Milo continued their collaborative efforts, now with the added mystery of the anomaly looming over their every discussion. The air was thick with tension and excitement as they delved deeper into the ship systems, ensuring stability and enhancing capabilities where possible. "Jack, if we reroute the auxiliary power through the secondary conduits, we might boost the efficiency without overloading the core," Milo suggested, examining the schematics on a floating holographic display. Jack, lying underneath a panel, tools in hand, nodded in agreement. "Makes sense. Let's wire it up and see what happens." "Ready on your end?" "Just about," Milo replied, adjusting settings on the control interface. "Okay, rerouting now." As they worked, T'Pel entered the engine room, his eyes scanning the numerous readouts. "I've been monitoring the anomaly's energy patterns. They're stable but increasing slightly. We should keep an eye on it." Jack slid out from under the panel, wiping his brow. "Good call. Let's not get too caught up here and miss something bigger out there." The three men set about integrating the anomaly's data into the ship's mainframe, a task that required precise calibration and frequent adjustments. Their work was a dance of sorts, each step meticulously choreographed and dependent on the others. "Jack, when you tweaked those settings, did you compensate for the flux variance?" T'Pel asked, peering over Jack's shoulder. "Adjusted by 0.03%. Should be enough to keep things stable, Jack responded, his voice calm despite the complex task at hand. Milo chimed in from the other side of the room. I'm seeing a 5% increase in energy output. Looks like your human intuition was right. Jack chuckled. More like educated guesses mixed with a bit of luck. Their banter was cut short by a sudden jolt. The ship trembled slightly, alarms blaring a warning that something was amiss. Renek's voice came over the intercom, urgent and commanding. Report to the bridge immediately. We've got a situation. Without hesitation, Jack, Milo, and T'Pel hurried to the bridge, finding Renek and a few other crew members staring at the main display, which showed a massive energy spike emanating from the anomaly. What's happening? Jack asked, his focus shifting to the readings. Renek pointed at the screen. The anomaly. It's reacting to our energy output. Seems like it's absorbing it. Absorbing it? That could mean it's sentient or some form of energy-based life, T'Pel theorized, his voice laced with both concern and wonder. We need to reduce our output, see if it responds, Jack suggested, stepping forward to adjust the controls. Wait, Jack, Milo interjected. If we cut our power abruptly, it might react negatively. Let's decrease gradually, monitor its response. Agreed, said Renek, nodding approvingly at the cautious approach. Over the next few hours, the crew worked in unison, gradually reducing the ship's energy signature while closely monitoring the anomaly. With each reduction, the anomaly's absorption rate slowed, its bright emissions dimming alongside their efforts. As the situation stabilized, Captain Sealer entered the bridge, relief evident on his features. Excellent work, everyone. We've avoided a potential crisis and perhaps made a significant discovery. Jack leaned against a console, exhausted but satisfied. Seems like we've got an intelligent force out there. We should consider establishing some form of communication. Indeed, Sealer agreed. Milo, T'Pel, continue your analyses. Jack, your insight has been invaluable. Would you join us in devising a communication strategy? Wouldn't miss it for the world, Jack responded, eager to engage further with the enigmatic entity. Together, the crew of the SS Horizon, bolstered by Jack's expertise and the collaborative spirit among them, prepared to embark on a new phase of their journey, making contact with whatever lay within the anomaly, an endeavor that would test their skills and potentially change their understanding of the universe. In the subdued glow of the SS Horizon's communal dining area, Jack and Milo sat across from each other, plates of the ship's standard rations between them. The room was quiet, the hum of the ship's engines a constant backdrop to their conversation. So, how do you usually communicate with new species? This isn't exactly a typical first contact scenario, Jack asked, picking up his utensil, a fork-like tool with sensors that adjusted to the food's consistency. Milo chuckled, his scales reflecting the soft light. Well, first we try not to scare them off. But seriously, it's mostly about finding a common ground, something universal. Music, mathematics, simple signals. What about humans? Jack thought for a moment. Pretty much the same, though we tend to be a bit more direct. If this anomaly responds to energy patterns, maybe we can modulate our emissions, make them rhythmic, patterned. T'Pel joined them at the table, his tray laden with a variety of Zaltraxian delicacies. I heard your discussion. Modulating energy emissions is a sound strategy. We've prepared a series of patterns based on prime numbers. Simple, yet universally recognizable. Let's set it up then, Milo said, finishing his meal. After dinner, we'll start the tests. The trio made their way to the control room, a compact space filled with monitors and control panels. Jack and T'Pel started configuring the ship's energy systems to emit controlled bursts of power. Milo watched the monitors closely, increasing energy output in 3, 2, 1. Now, on the screen, a graph spiked as the ship emitted a low-frequency pulse. They waited, eyes fixed on the sensor readings, hoping for any sign of response from the anomaly. Minutes passed in tense silence until the anomaly emitted a pulse of its own, a clear and unmistakable echo of their signal. It worked, T'Pel exclaimed, his voice a mix of relief and excitement. It's mimicking our pattern. Jack grinned. Looks like we've got the beginnings of a conversation. Let's keep the dialogue going. See what else we can learn about our mysterious friend out there. For hours, they experimented with different patterns, documenting the anomaly's responses. Each successful communication seemed to strengthen the connection, building a bridge of energy and light across the void of space. As the session drew to a close, Renek entered the room, his expression curious. "I've been monitoring your progress. It seems you've made significant headway." "We have," Jack confirmed. "It's responding to us, learning from us. Might be the first step towards understanding it fully." Renek nodded thoughtfully. "This could change how we explore the galaxy. Encountering a sentient energy form is unprecedented." Milo turned to the others, his eyes gleaming with possibilities. "Imagine the technological advancements if we could harness this form of communication, or even collaborate with it." The room buzzed with their shared enthusiasm, each member of the team contributing ideas and theories. The night stretched on, their work illuminated not just by the screens and lights of the ship, but by the bright potential of discovery and understanding. As they finally adjourned, Jack lingered behind, staring out at the stars. The anomaly, a distant speck of fluctuating light, no longer seemed an ominous mystery, but a promise of new horizons. "Hey, Jack, coming?" Milo called from the doorway. "Yeah," Jack replied, turning from the viewport. "Let's see what tomorrow brings." Together, they left the control room, their minds alive with plans for further tests and the hope of uncovering more secrets held by the cosmos. The chapter closed on a note of camaraderie and anticipation, setting the stage for deeper explorations in the chapters to come. Back in the engine room of the SS Horizon, Jack and Milo, together with Tbel, faced the daunting task of rebooting the ship's AI system while preserving the navigational data. The air was charged with a tense anticipation as they prepared to integrate the anomaly's data. "Okay, Tbel, are the backups secure?" Jack asked, his eyes scanning the intricate network of cables and lights that lined the walls. "Yes, all data is secured. We're ready to attempt the reboot," Tbel replied, his fingers poised over a sleek console. His face was lit by the soft glow of the screens, reflecting his serious concentration. Milo handed Jack a tool, a small device designed to manipulate the ship's complex circuitry. "We only get one shot at this, Jack. Make it count." Jack nodded, his focus narrowing as he adjusted the settings on the device. "Here goes nothing. On my mark 3, 2, 1, now." He activated the device, sending a surge of power through the system. The room fell silent, the only sound the hum of the ship's engines and the soft clicking of the console as Tbel monitored the reboot process. "Systems responding," Tbel announced after a tense moment. "AI core is coming online. Navigational data looks intact." Milo let out a relieved sigh. "That's the best news I've heard all day." Jack didn't relax yet. "Keep an eye on those readings, Tbel. Any fluctuation could mean trouble." As the AI system stirred to life, a holographic interface flickered before stabilizing, displaying a complex array of information and controls. The AI, a sophisticated network of algorithms and data, began to recalibrate itself, integrating the newly preserved navigational data. "AI is now fully operational," Tbel confirmed, his voice a mixture of pride and relief. "And it's already processing the anomaly's data." Renek entered the engine room, his presence commanding attention. "I heard the reboot was successful." "Excellent work, gentlemen." Jack wiped his hands on a rag, a small smile playing on his lips. "Thanks to a great team. The real test will be seeing how the AI handles the new data from the anomaly." Renek approached the holographic display, his eyes narrowing as he reviewed the information. "This could significantly enhance our understanding of the anomaly, perhaps even allow us to predict its behavior." Milo turned to Jack and Tbel, a spark of excitement in his eyes. "Imagine what we could achieve with this information. We might even be able to communicate more complex ideas with the anomaly." The team spent the remainder of their shift testing the AI's capabilities, pushing it to analyze and respond to the anomaly's signals more effectively. Each successful interaction added layers of data that were invaluable to their mission. As they wrapped up, Jack looked around at his colleagues, a sense of camaraderie among them. "This is groundbreaking stuff, team. We're not just fixing a ship. We're making history here." Renek nodded in agreement. Indeed, Jack. Let's continue this momentum. Tomorrow, we'll start simulations based on today's data. We need to be prepared for any possible outcomes. The chapter closed with the team leaving the engine room, their steps light with the success of the day's work. As they headed to their respective quarters, the ship's corridors seemed less daunting, filled with the potential of their ongoing mission. The darkness of space outside the windows contrasted sharply with the light of hope and curiosity burning within each of them, driving them forward into uncharted territories. The observation deck of the SS Horizon offered a panoramic view of the stars, a breathtaking backdrop for deep conversations. Jack and Lyra had retreated here, seeking a brief respite from the bustling activity that had overtaken the ship. You know, I've always wondered what it would be like to meet a human, Lyra started, her gaze fixed on the swirling galaxy outside. I never imagined it would be under these circumstances, Jack smiled, turning to face her. And I never thought I'd find myself working side by side with Zaltraxians. Space has a funny way of bringing the unexpected right to your doorstep. Their conversation flowed easily, delving into topics of exploration, philosophy, and the shared curiosity that drove their respective races to the stars. As they talked, Jack found himself admiring Lyra's insights and the passionate way she spoke about her home world. Lyra glanced at him, a playful curiosity in her eyes. What about Earth? What drives humans to explore so relentlessly? It's about understanding our place in the universe, I guess, Jack mused. And maybe a bit of that ancient instinct to see what's over the next hill, or in our case, the next star. The conversation shifted as T'Pel joined them, his presence a gentle reminder of the task at hand. I've been analyzing the latest data from the AI, he announced. It's responding to our communications, adapting its patterns. It's like it's trying to learn from us. Jack leaned in, intrigued. Do you think it's conscious, or is it just mimicking us? T'Pel shrugged, a slight frown creasing his brow. Hard to say, but it's fascinating either way. We're scheduling more tests for tomorrow. Could use your input, Jack. Count me in, Jack replied. The mystery of the anomaly had captured his full attention, promising answers to questions they hadn't yet thought to ask. As the night deepened, the trio decided to conduct a spontaneous experiment. Using the ship's external sensors, they sent a new sequence of energy pulses towards the anomaly, each pulse carefully designed to test its responses. Initiating sequence now, Lyra said, her hands moving deftly over the controls. The anomaly pulsed back, its light patterns more complex than before. Each response was logged and analyzed, the data flashing across the screens in real time. Milo rushed into the observation deck, excitement etched across his face. Did you see that? It's changing its frequency. It's like it understands what we're asking. Jack nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. Maybe it's not just energy. Maybe it's some form of intelligence or even life. The team spent several hours at the console, tweaking their approach, refining their questions into pulses of energy. It was a dialogue unlike any other, conducted across the vast emptiness of space with a possibly sentient entity. As dawn approached, Jack stood back, stretching his tired muscles. We're on the verge of something big here. Let's keep pushing. See where this leads. Lyra smiled, her fatigue overshadowed by her enthusiasm. This is more than just scientific discovery. It's a meeting of minds, across species and possibly dimensions. T'Pel nodded in agreement. I'll compile our findings and prepare for a full session later today. We should all get some rest. As they left the observation deck, the stars outside seemed to shine a little brighter, each one a silent witness to the unfolding story aboard the SS Horizon. Jack felt a deep sense of purpose as he headed to his quarters. The anomaly wasn't just a scientific curiosity anymore. It was a bridge to something new and utterly transformative. The corridors of the SS Horizon buzzed with a new kind of energy as the crew prepared for the final phase of their project. The anomaly had begun to respond in increasingly sophisticated ways, suggesting a level of interaction that went beyond mere data exchange. Jack and Milo, together with the Zaltraxian team, convened in the main lab to discuss the next steps. Today, we need to solidify our communication with the anomaly, Jack stated, addressing the group gathered around the lab's central holographic display. If we're right about its capabilities, we could establish a form of dialogue that's unprecedented. Milo nodded, tapping on his datapad. I've adjusted the energy output sequences based on the last set of responses. We're pushing for a more complex pattern today. T'Pel chimed in, his voice measured and thoughtful. We should monitor the anomaly's reactions closely. Any deviation from expected patterns could provide new insights. Renek, who had been listening intently, looked up from the screen where the anomaly's latest data was streaming. Let's not forget the risk management protocols. We're in uncharted territory here. The team agreed, and they split into pairs to tackle different tasks. Jack and Milo focused on refining the transmission equipment, ensuring that every modulation of energy sent to the anomaly was precise. Jack, make sure the modulation interface is synced to the mainframe, Milo instructed as he checked the alignments. Jack, hands busy over the console, replied without looking up, it's already taken care of. I triple-checked the sync. We're good to go. Meanwhile, T'Pel and Lyra worked on the analytical side, preparing to interpret the anomaly's responses. The patterns we've seen so far are complex, but there's an underlying symmetry, Lyra noted, her eyes scanning the data. It's almost like it's speaking to us through mathematics. As the final checks were completed, the entire team regrouped in the control room. Jack initiated the sequence, and a hush fell over the room as they waited for the anomaly's response. Seconds ticked by, the tension mounting, until the screens lit up with a new series of data. The anomaly had not only mimicked their complex patterns, but had added variations of its own. It's evolving its responses. This is incredible, T'Pel exclaimed, his voice a mix of awe and excitement. Milo leaned over to view the data more closely. It's like a dance, a back and forth between us. We send a step, and it responds with its own. The implications of their findings were profound, and the room buzzed with animated discussion about the potential meanings and applications of this interaction. We need to document everything, Renek stated firmly. Every response could be a key to understanding not just the anomaly, but perhaps the nature of communication itself. As the session extended into the evening, the team worked tirelessly, their earlier fatigue forgotten in the rush of discovery. Jack, feeling the weight and thrill of their achievements, took a moment to step back and observe his colleagues. This is history in the making, Jack said to Milo, who stood beside him, both watching the data flow in. Milo nodded, a broad smile spreading across his face. And to think, this all started with a distress call and a broken ship. As the chapter closed, the SS Horizon was no longer just a vessel in space. It had become a beacon of interstellar communication and discovery. The team, led by Jack and joined by his Zaltraxian counterparts, had not only repaired a ship but had potentially opened a dialogue with a new form of intelligence. Their work promised to change the course of their lives and possibly the understanding of life in the universe. The SS Horizon hummed with a quiet sense of accomplishment. The repairs were complete, the anomaly had stabilized, and the mission that had begun as a desperate plea for help had turned into something extraordinary. Jack Turner, the human engineer who had come aboard as a stranger, was now preparing to leave, but not before one last conversation with the team he had come to respect deeply. In the control room, Jack stood beside Milo, T'Pel, and Renek, watching the final readouts on the anomaly. The data streams showed that the anomaly had quieted, its energy patterns now steady and predictable. We've done it, Milo said, breaking the silence. It's stable. We can monitor it without risk now, and we've learned more than we ever thought possible. Jack crossed his arms, nodding. Yeah, I don't think anyone expected this when you sent out that distress call. Renek, always the pragmatic one, leaned forward, examining the data. We've ensured the safety of the ship, yes, but the knowledge we've gained from this anomaly is far more significant. We've barely scratched the surface. T'Pel agreed. It's a new kind of communication, one we'll need to study for years. Who knows what else we might learn from it? Jack grinned. Just don't blow up any more engines trying to figure it out. The group laughed, the tension of the last few days finally releasing. It was a rare moment of camaraderie for the usually formal Zaltraxians, but Jack had brought something different to their mission. a sense of humor and humanity that had blended with their own sense of duty and curiosity. After a brief silence, Jack glanced at his personal communicator, which was flashing with a message. "Looks like my ship's ready to go," he said, his voice tinged with the inevitability of parting. Milo frowned slightly. "You really have to leave so soon? We could use someone with your skills as we continue to study this anomaly." Jack sighed, feeling the weight of his decision. "Tempting, but I've got my own projects back home. And besides, I'm sure you'll manage without me." Lyra, who had been quiet until now, entered the control room. Her presence was enough to cause Jack to hesitate for just a second. Their connection had grown, though neither had spoken about it directly. She met his gaze, a hint of sadness in her eyes, but also pride in what they had accomplished together. "I came to say goodbye," she said softly, stepping closer to Jack. "I know it hasn't been that long, but it feels like we've been through so much." Jack nodded. "We have. More than I expected when I first docked here." The two stood in silence for a moment, the air between them heavy with unspoken words. Spell, sensing the need for privacy, motioned for Milo and Renek to follow him out. "We'll leave you two to it," he said quietly, and the trio exited, leaving Jack and Lyra alone in the control room. Lyra sighed, her shoulders relaxing as she watched the stars outside the viewport. "I guess this is it then." Jack stepped closer, his voice quiet but steady. "It doesn't have to be." She turned to face him, a mixture of emotions flickering across her features. "You're heading back to Earth. I have my duties here. What could possibly—" Before she could finish, Jack closed the distance between them, gently taking her hand. "I've been all over the galaxy, Lyra. Fixed more ships than I can count. But this, what we did here, it's different. You're different." Lyra's breath hitched slightly, her usually calm demeanor faltering. I didn't expect this, Jack. I didn't expect you." Jack smiled softly. "You and me both." There was a pause as they stood together, the hum of the ship the only sound in the room. Then, without another word, Jack leaned in, his lips brushing hers. It was a soft kiss at first, tentative, as if both were testing the waters of something that had been building since they first met. But it deepened quickly, the connection between them undeniable. Lyra responded, her hand resting on his chest as she leaned into him, their kiss becoming more passionate, filled with the energy of everything they hadn't said. Her touch was gentle but firm, fingers tracing the edge of his jaw as they pulled each other closer. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless, staring at each other with the unspoken understanding that their time together, however short, had changed them both. "I won't forget this," Lyra whispered, her voice almost trembling. "I won't forget you." Jack pressed his forehead against hers, their hands still entwined. "And I won't forget you, Lyra. I promise." They stood like that for a few moments longer before Jack finally stepped back, the reality of his departure settling in. "I should get going," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Lyra nodded, her eyes shining. "Safe travels, Jack Turner." Jack gave her one last look, a small smile playing on his lips. "Until we meet again." With that, he turned and left the control room, making his way to the docking bay where his ship, the Nomad, awaited. As he walked, he could feel the weight of the journey ahead, but also the lingering warmth of the connection he had made aboard the SS Horizon. The crew gathered in the docking bay to see him off. Even Renek, usually so stoic, offered a firm handshake. "You've done more than repair our ship, Jack. You've helped us understand something far greater." Jack chuckled. "Just doing my job." As the airlock hissed open and Jack stepped aboard the Nomad, he cast one final glance at the crew he had come to know and respect. Then, with a nod, he boarded his ship and prepared for departure. The Nomad disengaged from the SS Horizon, drifting slowly away from the larger ship. Inside the cockpit, Jack sat back, watching the stars. His mind was full of thoughts, of the anomaly, of the crew, and most of all of Lyra. The ship's console beeped, pulling him from his thoughts. It was a message from the horizon, a simple transmission from Lyra. "Until we meet again." Jack smiled, his hand resting on the controls as he set his course. The universe was vast, And though his path was uncertain, he had a feeling that this wasn't the last time their lives would cross. With a final glance at the horizon, Jack engaged the thrusters, and the Nomad shot off into the blackness of space, leaving behind a mission accomplished and a future full of possibilities.